welcome to the 17th edition of the Spacemen from Pluto podcast.
Christ.
Oh my god, we can drive.
Happy anniversary, everyone. 17 episodes.
Oh
We've done it.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
17.
it's felt like a lot more. I am your host today, as you've no doubt worked out. I'm joined by, as usual,
Ben.
James.
And Christian.
So today we're going to be talking about our favourite films that are based on true events. What a great subject, hey? A lot to choose from, I think you'd agree, guys. And as I'm the host, I guess I'm going to go first, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
As is tradition.
As always.
Bit greedy.
Yeah, why have you not offered it to anyone else?
So at least us three do the courtesy of offering it out before taking it anyway.
Would anyone else like to go first?
Well, no, obviously, Dan, you're going to go first.
Yeah,
you're the host.
Why would you even ask, Dan?
Come on, man.
You're the host.
It's the 17th podcast. You should know this by now.
Come on, man.
I'll go first then. So, probably one of my favourite films is Apollo 13.
Thank God. I was gonna off camera. I was gonna be like, "You are gonna talk about Apollo 13, are you, Dan? Like, you haven't forgotten that exists."
Of course, Dan. Look at this little thing here. I'll show you a little Easter egg here. Look at that.
Oh my
It's
God.
a model. Can I get it lined up? It's a little Lego model of the moon landing. Because I've got it's not here. Because
The
it's
set of the moon landing.
Yes, the Kubrick set. It is a additional kind of supplemental bit of Lego that I got as part of the Saturn V rocket, which was a Lego kit I enjoyed making. I don't care. I might be an older guy. I might be a bit more mature, you know, but I still got time for Lego. It was
Everyone
it was a
took time
good
for
activity.
Lego.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I'm really into that era of the space race. The whole race to the moon is pretty incredible. The whole Apollo program, the Saturn rockets, incredible pieces of engineering. Just a really mental time in human history, really. When President Kennedy went, you know what? We're going to get to the moon by 1969. And he just did, even though they didn't know how. But they just did. And they worked it out. And they actually got there.
Or did they?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
It's a real great era in filmmaking.
They were like... just that beautiful era of history where America were like, let's show Russia what we can do. We've got missiles. We've got this little man. Let's put this man on the end of the missile and see how far we can get him.
Will he blow up? Let's find out.
It's just mental. They looked in the sky. They went, the moon is there. Let's go to it. And then they just literally fired a man to the moon.
Do you know that rock where there's no oxygen? Yeah, you're going to go there and walk around?
Exactly. And they didn't only fire it. They somehow slowed down and then landed on it and then walked about. And later on, they brought golf clubs and had a game of golf. That's
Allegedly.
just ridiculous. Yeah, but anyway, to the case in point, Apollo 13, that was, I think it'll have been the... Apollo 11 was the actual first moon landing. Apollo 12 is the next one.
Makes sense. Good logic.
Apollo 13 was the one after that, but as we all no doubt know, unless you've been living under a rock and completely ignorant of history.
Or on a rock, the moon.
Exactly, unless you've been living on the moon. It didn't go according to plan. It went really, really badly wrong, and the rocket kind of half exploded in space. Something very bad happened to an oxygen tank, and it basically just blew off half of the capsule they were travelling in. And then somehow they worked out how to get them home. And Apollo 13 is the dramatisation of that entire nightmare situation that those astronauts found themselves in.
Is that where we get Houston, we have a problem from?
It is indeed, James.
Right,
That
I've not
is
seen Apollo 13.
Although it's a misquote, because he doesn't say, Houston, we have a problem. He says, Houston, there's been a problem. I think.
It's the Mandela
Maybe I've
effect all
misquoted
over again.
There's some kind of misquote.
I'm pretty sure it is one of those like misquotes where I'm pretty sure he does say Houston. There is a. I mean, I've not seen
Houston. We've had a problem.
Yeah.
Rather than Houston, we have a problem. I think that's what it is. But yeah, he did say words to that effect. And,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go on like this film's like an absolute masterpiece of kind of filmmaking. But obviously, I guess it's a rule that's going to sort of run true throughout all our selections, is that the fact it is based on a true story elevates it, and it just kind of makes you step back and go, wow, that actually happened.
Yeah.
I just think it was amazing how they managed to all come together and work out exactly how to get the astronauts home, and just basically by improvisation, just basically maths, gravity, physics, and just pure like improvisation. It was
Probably
so
a little
good,
bit
and
of luck.
it worked. It actually worked. And what? Sorry, James.
I said, and probably a little bit of luck.
And probably a little bit of I imagine there was a little bit of luck, but probably not as much as you imagine, because those people were proper geniuses when it came down to just working things like that out.
Just get everyone in a room and be like, right, so remember those guys that we sent to the moon? Well, the rocket blew up, and now we need to get them back.
Exactly.
What do you think?
Yeah, and then there's actually that cool scene in it where, what is his name? He played the director in the Truman Show. What's the actor's name?
Jim Carrey.
He's on the train in Snowpiercer. Neil Harris. That's not his name.
It's something.
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. Yeah.
Neil Harris. Come
Neil
on, Ben.
Harris. Neil
Patrick
Harris.
Harris.
Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because I watched Into Sin.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah. Well, that's for a later conversation.
Oh.
We will be discussing what we recommend later.
Tease.
But anyway, that's later on.
Little teaser for you.
Yeah, where Neil Harris, not Neil Harris, Ed Harris.
Ed Harris.
Oh god.
Neil Patrick Harris.
He basically brings in a big box of like stuff that he knows that they have on the capsule, and he goes, right, we've got to do this. Here's what you've got to get to this solution. Just do it, and they do, and the rest is history.
It does sound like the kind of thing that would be written and fictionalized.
Exactly.
But it isn't. It actually happened, which is
It's
pretty cool.
crazy, isn't it? Is it in the 90s? Is that how? What year was it come out?
1972 it happened, Ben.
No, the film, man. The film.
1995, Ben, it came out. So.
It does remind me, Dan, because you talk about how much you like the time period.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how you should watch For All Mankind.
Yeah, but you know what it's like when
TV.
when someone says you should watch something.
You don't want to watch it.
And I've just no, but I do actually.
It's a good thing we don't have a whole section planned around that.
The thing is, I don't really like TV going. No, I will get around to watching that definitely, Ben, because you have sort of it has piqued my interest and everything. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen Apollo 13. It's been one of the many films on my watch list for a while now.
You could say we need to educate you on it.
You could say that we do need to educate me on it.
But yeah, that's my first pick. Did you guys want me to go through a second pick? I could go through a second pick if you want, or we could move around the room. What do you reckon? Should we go around the room?
It's not all about you, Dan.
Well, it is, but
I want to know what's the deal with Christian's background. What's wrong with who are Wanda and Vision hanging out with in the back there?
I thought that looks so much like Paul Bettany.
It looks like Paul Bettany.
Yeah,
it does actually.
I don't remember that scene from one. It might have made it good.
Oh, he's gone for it.
I'm gonna need you to take that back, Dan.
No, I'm not taking it back. No, I stand by it.
Well,
Nah,
that
One
finished,
Division was
didn't
alright. It was
finished
alright.
now, didn't it? That show finished.
Yeah, you've already
You've
done a
already
video
forgotten.
where you discussed it all. Yeah, true. Yeah,
The world forgot.
and now we've got another Marvel show to look forward to. When is it? March the 18th. What's it called? Winter Soldier and Bucky or whatever.
Winter Soldier
then-
is Bucky.
Yeah, and then
It's about the duality of man.
And when that ends, we've got Loki, which just never stops. And then no
Yeah,
doubt
same
after that,
Loki
we've
then.
got like a bloody.
Someone's tracked
After
it forward.
that, we
Like, if all the films release when they're supposed to, every week we will have Marvel content of 2021.
That's
every week.
disgusting.
Dystopian James.
Oh, I love it.
That's
That's like my
vile.
dream.
James, no. There's other films. You've got to stop.
No,
You've got to stop
it
with the
never
Marvel
stops. It just keeps going. That train just keeps chugging along.
apart, James.
And I've got a first class ticket, baby.
So what's your background, Christian? What's going on?
My background is from one of my personal favourite, based on true events films, which is Zodiac. We've mentioned it before. We're going to mention it again, and I'm going to talk about it now.
Fincher Talk is back.
Yeah, part 3.
Where's the jingle?
It's just like a really well shot film. I've heard a few people talk about it and they're like, oh, it's long, I'm not sure I can get into it. Like it's well worth giving the watch because it's such like an interesting story. Because I mean, I'm a big fan of like sort of like crime sort of films anyway. And yeah,
I'm a big fan of
I'm a big fan of crime.
I quite like it.
I love crime. No, I'm a big fan of like sort of like crime films and dramatizations of that anyway. And even more so when you don't find out who the spoilers for anyone. They didn't know who the Zodiac Killer was.
Right, look, I'm just going to throw it out now there. You can't put spoiler warnings on history.
Yeah, and it's a bit distasteful, actually, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's like don't tell them because it's entertainment. That people actually died.
It's a real quality. It's a compliment to the film where you got to sit through that runtime and be satisfied that there is no conclusion.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that's fascinating about Zodiac is it kind of tries to give you a conclusion. You know,
an emotional one almost for the
characters, because for anyone who doesn't know, it follows Jake Gyllenhaal, who's playing a cartoonist for a newspaper, who ends up clashing with a drunken news reporter played by Robert Downey Jr., and both of them, both very interested in the Zodiac and solving the Zodiac case, end up inadvertently sort of teaming up with Mark Ruffalo, who's playing a police inspector, and helping to decipher the Zodiac's like coding. And it's just this sort of long trail where you get to the end and they sort of point you in the direction where they're like, we think that this guy was the Zodiac, but there's no way to prove it. So yeah, some people have said, oh, it's a very sort of, you know, it's not a very good ending. It just sort of ends, and I'm like, yeah, but the case never ended. Like it's a cold case.
I felt like the film essentially went, look, it wasn't proven, but here you go, it was him. Like it very much feels like they're trying to say that.
Yeah. They basically said, look, that you know, the Zodiac logo was on his watch. He had the right height, he had the right build, he had the right mannerisms. It pretty much was him, but we didn't have enough evidence to prove it. And while we were trying to prepare enough evidence to prove it, he died. So
that's how they get you.
And funnily enough, when he died, the Zodiac stopped killing people. So we think it was him, but
I think this film is like the epitome of what Dan was saying of like films that are good anyway, and then the fact that it really happened just adds that extra element to it. Like any sort of serial killer crime, like Seven is a really good film, and then this is a really good film that has that extra element to it. You were saying, Christian, where it is long. I put this film off watching it for so long because I was always like, oh, do I want to sit down and watch a 2.5-hour film about events I already kind of know? And then once I eventually did sit down, I was like, what a film. Like, I loved it.
It's honestly like so interesting, and it is one of them things. It's like, oh yeah, it's like 2.5, like nearing on 3 hours, and people are like, oh, that's so long. But it's I'm really glad that like Fincher didn't leave anything on. It didn't seem to leave anything on the cutting room floor. He like really established these characters, established these people, and sort of let you sort of live and breathe in this sort of mystery tale rather than try and rush through it. And especially add in scenes like the one in the background where you see the Zodiac interact with and take out his victim. Like, this is one of those uncomfortable scenes.
Oh, big time.
I was going to mention, that a lot. I've seen a lot of gruesome, gory film scenes. Murders and all sorts of horrible stuff. But that particular scene, for some reason, sticks with me because it's just, not only is it based on true event, I think the lack of score really kind of hammers home like how horrific it is, and just the weirdness of the guy just turns up dressed like that, and he just then decides to kill them, like bind them and kill them, and it's like just really.
It's those two. It's the couple that play it.
That's right.
They're aware that they're about to be killed and are being killed. That's kind of
It's like you know that like this actually happened to someone, and I think Dan's put it perfectly. Of because there's no music, it feels real.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things. It's like, you know, that you always read about the Zodiac, and it's like, oh, he shot people, but when you watch this scene, like, I don't know, before this, from what I knew of the Zodiac, I'd always assumed he just like sort of snuck up on unsuspecting people in places like this and shot them, whereas in this you watch him pull out the gun and he has a full conversation with them where he fully like builds the fear into these people and lets them know that they are about to die. He toys with them first, and it's not just an impulse thing, and that, like, the fact that they got that through in the film in such like a gritty and uncomfortable way is it's what makes this film stand out as like sort of a really good true to life retelling.
That scene shows that to have an effective violent scene and to get a visceral reaction out of your audience, it doesn't mean blood and gore. You can I don't recall it being
with drama and tension.
Yeah, in terms of like its blood and gore, I don't recall it being particularly.
No, it wasn't.
Is it quite reserved? I haven't seen it in quite a while. Bit of blood. I don't know.
You hit the nail on the head though, Ben, when you said, "Oh, they know they're going to be killed, and they know they are being killed." It's like, ugh, that's horrible, man.
Doesn't
like,
the guy get stabbed first, and the woman? Does she watch it happen and stuff? It's just horrible.
The guy actually, I think, the guy survived, didn't he? He didn't actually die. The girl died.
I can't
the guy actually did.
I can't remember
survive.
Either.
That's disrespectful.
Is it timeless?
Is it timeless?
Oh, let's not go there.
The Zodiac Killer, man, trash, total trash.
I mean, he was.
Did you hear they deciphered one of his notes recently, Christian?
I did. Yeah, I did.
They actually figured it out.
Yeah, they've started to figure out some of his ciphers.
It turns out he's just a bit of an idiot. Like, he couldn't spell, and like he couldn't his sentences were constructed really weirdly, and he just sounded like a bit low IQ. Yeah,
they now reckon that one of the reasons that his notes were so hard to decipher was because they were misspelt.
Yeah.
Because they reckon that he was like dyslexic or just of low IQ in that sort of area.
Here's a little tangent for you. Do you think that the glorification of serial killers in cinema is a bit weird? Because let's face it, the Zodiac Killer, not a very nice guy. Serial killers in general, not very nice people. And yet we make films about them. We obsess about them in all forms of media, not just films. What do you reckon about that? Bit weird, right?
It is weird.
Yeah. I mean, I nearly wrote my dissertation on that very question.
Yeah.
But I do think it's weird. Like, I think that Zodiac and films like Zodiac is one thing where it's told from the perspective of the sort of investigators or the victims, because it kind of puts the serial killers on a pedestal in that we're willing to make a film out of them, but it also, like, Zodiac doesn't hold back in showing what a horrible person this is and being like, oh no, he was diabolical. I think the weirder ones are when you get stuff like My Friend Dharma and the Zac Efron Ted Bundy one, the one with a really long title, where it's like the main protagonist, the person you are following, is said serial killer. And the Ted Bundy one particularly is weird because the entire film is like playing on is he innocent, and following the trial where he tries to get off for the murders, and it's like, how it seems weird that you're trying to almost make us.
No, I don't think they pushed any narrative of did he or didn't he do it in that film.
I don't think they did, but they kind of, I've heard people interpret it like that. Like I actually know people who came out of that film and was like, you know, I'm starting to think he didn't do it. And it's like, but he did.
I was gonna say.
It's like, I think maybe it's because it's like, you know, we watch all these movies with these villains, you know, Hannibal Lecters and know, Darth Vader and stuff, but this is like that added element of, well, these people are real. The real life movie villains actually exist, and it's also maybe this is like strange animalist lust that we've got deep down that kind of we're interested in because it's so extreme. Some sort of like thrill ride deep down subconsciously. That it's really weird.
That's the core of it, isn't it? I mean, the fact is that
murders, it's really weird.
These people, you know, serial killers, are at the absolute extreme of human kind of psychology, aren't they? Like their actions, they are fascinating on a level of like people want to know what makes them tick, and they do make really compelling sort of stories, books, whatever the hell it is, you know. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is kind of weird how there is such a... It's almost like, especially now you're getting documentaries on Netflix about serial killers.
Like making a murder,
you get it all. Yeah, you really are kind of just invited to obsess over them and really kind of... Like, it's almost just it gives them a bit... Like, it puts them on a pedestal, like you said, Christian. You know? It's like... It's just, I don't know, because I'm guilty, but I'll watch the serial killer thing, I'll watch the documentaries, I'll get really into it and everything. It's just a strange thing that is accepted in our society, though.
I like I say, I do think it's weird, especially when we have these like where the killer is like put at the forefront of the narrative, and it's almost like sometimes. I haven't seen My Friend Dahmer, but I've been told that like Dahmer in that is like, because it's his teenage years, he's portrayed as the sympathetic character, and it's like, but he was not only is he a serial killer, he is an actual serial killer, and it seems weird that they make a film that creates him as a sympathetic protagonist.
Yeah, that's an odd choice.
Like you know,
quite questionable.
It's one thing turning around and making a film based on a fictional villain and being like, oh, you know, let's create them as a sympathetic character. It's another thing, you know, taking a real life villain and turning them into a sympathetic character.
Yeah,
it's just a really unusual choice.
Yeah.
Having said that, have you watched Night Stalker on Netflix? It's really good.
Night Stalker.
I actually haven't watched Night Stalker.
It's like a mini limited series. I think there's like 4 or 5 episodes about a serial killer from the 80s or 70s. It's quite good. Normally I can't get into documentaries, but this one was really good. It felt like it was nicely paced enough to keep me interested.
Yeah, and isn't that interesting there that like we're talking about like these real life events in terms of pacing, and like it's just, you know, that's the nature of like film and, you know, documentary, I suppose. But it's just odd that we pick such weird subjects and then we bring out the stuff that's going to be compelling for people and going to kind of keep people watching and stuff. Like cliffhangers from documentaries are always really strange, aren't they?
Yeah, it is weird that this is like. I mean, I remember like sort of one of the early things that I watched that sort of introduced me to this sort of looking at sort of killers and stuff is I don't know if you ever watched the series Whitechapel.
No,
I've heard of it.
Oh, it's about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, the first series it's like 6 episodes, and it's based it's set in the year it was made, and it's based on a Jack the Ripper copycat, and they basically have to work through the Jack the Ripper case to figure out what he's going to do next and try and figure out who this new Jack the Ripper is by looking at the old case.
So it's like oh my god, what was that show? It was like 4 like middle-aged / elderly detectives that like reopened old cases and solved them.
New Tricks,
that was it.
It's all right, it's okay.
That was a great show.
It's good shit.
It's like that, but like super dark and gritty.
But is the theme song as good?
Holy shit!
I don't actually remember Whitechapel's theme song. I do remember that after the first season, which is based on Jack the Ripper, it did get more seasons, which were also quite good. Where they were still 6-episode seasons, but they were like 2-episode arcs based on copycats of other cases. So like there was, 2 episodes on the Krays and 2 episodes on another like infamous killer, 2 episodes on the Yorkshire Ripper. Like, it's a very good show, but I remember it's sort of sitting down and watching that and being like, oh, this is fascinating, this is really cool, but why are we making this? Like, why are we sort of giving reverence to what, like, we're almost being like, oh, how amazing was Jack the Ripper? I mean, he never got caught, and it's like, that's a bad thing.
You're almost
Still
like
out there.
because everyone loves the anti-hero, don't they? And like serial killers are kind of like the original. To coin a better phrase, to use a better phrase, the original anti-hero.
Jesse James and people like that, Butch Cassidy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say there's really any heroic element to a serial killer.
It's not. No, all right, okay. No, exactly.
Something you want to tell us?
That's right. Yes, I'm a serial killer.
Ben suddenly leans back and locks his door.
No, but I think weirdly there is that kind of element to the serial killer. That's why it's sort of, because they're not. It's obviously not heroic that they're killing people, like, that's their serial
for the
killers.
record.
Yeah.
But there's something in the way that we treat them and the narratives that surround them. They are almost painted as like they are in a weird way.
I think part of it is that like serial killers are something out of a film. And then when it happens in real life, it's just something a bit more interesting than your mundane everyday life. So I think that's why people get into it. I don't know if this is a poor way of phrasing it, but it's something a bit more exciting in a horrific,
that's what I said
macabre
earlier.
way. But yeah,
it's like it's some weird subconscious thrill. That we seem to. It's like an animalistic. I don't know. It's very peculiar.
You don't want them to succeed, but you do want to be able to sort of see things from their perspective.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's just fascinating.
Like I don't think I've ever watched anything with a serial killer in and been like, oh yeah, no, I'm rooting for him.
I don't know. Zac Efron's pretty tasty.
Because it's like I find the era of the Second World War and Hitler's rise really interesting, but I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah.
I don't wish it on anyone, but I find that era very interesting.
I think we're just naturally curious, aren't we, to find out. Like we hear about the extremes of kind of behaviour and the extreme events of history, and we're just naturally curious. We want to know more. We want to know what made the people tick at the time.
I think film is like one of those mediums that has evolved in a way to do that. You can create characters and worlds and put them on the screen and like give people, like, sort of create emotion, feed people a narrative, and they've seen that you can do this with a fictional narrative. So it's like, well, why can't we do it with a non-fictional narrative and sort of feed this information to people in a way that's easier to consume than reading it, but also creates the sort of same emotional weight.
It's like life in general. Like nothing is as unpredictable as life. So that's why these movies keep getting made, because these strange tales that maybe someone couldn't have thought up.
Are there any rights issues when you make a film based on real events? Like, can anyone just make a film about anyone or anything, or do you have to get like the estate of the famous person or like stuff like that?
It depends on the person. If it's like a celebrity, like a Michael Jackson, you have to go through their estate.
I was going to say with Zodiac, I reckon they'd have had to sort of get the permission of the sort of like the families of the victims or the families of the sort of the 3 main characters involved. Like, obviously they wouldn't have had to get the Zodiac killer's permission because they don't know who he was.
Speaking of people being involved with the films that they're based on, though, my choice was heavily, like the guy who mine's based on was heavily involved with this film. I absolutely loved 2019's Rocketman. What a thrill ride through the life of Elton John that was.
I never saw it.
So it's so, like, I'm a big Elton John fan, so I think I was kind of always going to enjoy this. But man, I really like that film. It's really cool to see where he started, where he came through, the obstacles he had to sort of overcome and all that. And then it didn't just do Bohemian Rhapsody, where it's like, here's the story of Queen, and every now and then we'll play 20 seconds of their song, and then we'll cut away. It's like, no. I'm here for Queen. I'd like to actually hear some of their music. Whereas Elton, like Rocketman, it just went full musical. It had dance numbers, like full songs. It was great. So much fun.
That was based on reality, though. That was just Elton John's life. His life is a musical, non-stop musical.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. So you enjoyed Rocketman. What other fucking... Sorry, what am I trying to say here? You enjoyed Rocketman. Are there any other musical films that you enjoy? Musical biopics?
Well, that's the other thing. Like, I think that's why I was always going to enjoy this. I like Elton John's music. I love a good musical. I really like Taron Egerton. I've never seen him be bad in anything. Yeah. Like, all his films that I've seen, he's been good in them, and they've been good films. The guy just knows how to pick his projects, clearly.
Except Robin Hood. That was a bit...
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, I like that in Rocketman they decide to try something a bit different and not do a straight... Because I personally, if I don't mind either way. If it was like a film about Elton John and maybe you don't get any of the music, it's just you just follow him and stuff. But I like they've gone, well, he's very I was gonna say bodacious, but flamboyant and bombastic.
Yeah.
And so they've kind of ridden that wave of the fantasy sequences and stuff, and it is a well-made film. Like Dexter Fletcher's director, I think he's just an actor. Like, he was in Lock, Stock and stuff with Guy Ritchie, and then he like ended up, I'm not fully aware of his career, kind of finding his way just working away throughout the couple of decades, and he's a solid director.
Yeah, I really like how they took the newspaper article of where it's got him like with his fingers on the keyboard and he jumps and his legs are in the air, and then they took that into the film to say that like when he was playing it, he felt like the room was so electric he like floated off the floor, and that's what he felt like, and it kind of translates the picture into a stylistic music number.
I don't mind the choice either of just having him sing it and changing up the songs a little bit to suit his voice. It's so interesting because that came out the same time as Bohemian Rhapsody. The comparison between the two, I'd much rather pick a Rocketman over what Bohemian Rhapsody did.
Yeah.
You know, based off real events in Bohemian Rhapsody, I've heard it's a very loose term.
Yeah.
It's almost not
like they really shift events around to make it more dramatic and what fits their not narrative better, but what they've clearly gone, look, I know that this is how it happened, but it works better as the story if it happened this way, so we're just going to say it happened this way.
Yeah. One I watched and really, really enjoyed is a film called Moneyball.
Alright, yeah, okay. I've not seen it.
The biggest compliment I can give it is it's so good and it's so interesting, and it doesn't matter that you know nothing about baseball.
Right, okay.
I know nothing about baseball. I don't care about baseball, but it's really engaging and really investing. Brad Pitt plays a coach. I think he's kind of near the way out of his career, I think. And he's just signed to a new team, like quite a low-ranking team, not a lot of money. And he's looking for like how is he going to do this new season? Did they win the championship? The only players left because they won. Something like that. And then he meets Jonah Hill, who's like mathematically figured out a way to play baseball through like statistics and stuff. And they figure out how to get these weird cheap players and play them in such a way that they can like beat the system mathematically. And I think it's written by Aaron Sorkin as well, directed by, I think his name's Bennett Miller or something, did Capote or something like that. And it's because it's Aaron Sorkin, it's got this great flow and the sense of dialogue's really engaging, and like just like the scenes of Brad Pitt sat around a table with all these other help coaches deciding the players is really engaging, and how they figure out how to get these players and work the team. And it's not really about the sport of baseball, it's about these people, and it's surprisingly better than you maybe think it sounds. And it's really worth the watch, I think.
I've heard loads of good things, and I've had it recommended a couple of times. I had no idea it was based on real events, though.
Yeah, real team, real people. Got a young Chris Pratt when he's still podgy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a testament to some of these like based on true event films when they can take like a topic that might not sound very interesting, or maybe you personally aren't interested in, and turn it into a film that is absolutely gripping. You don't really know a lot about baseball. You don't really care much about baseball, but you sat down, you watched this film, and you were like fully invested in the events of like what had happened. I mean, the I'm not sure, but it sounds like it's one of those actual events where it happened and it was a semi-big thing, but it wasn't as big as this dramatization will have made it out to be. And they've made it they've just made it this like spectacle that now, because it's been immortalized as a dramatized film, will be like an event.
I guess it's like in our country, it's the equivalent of the year Leicester won the Premier League. Like that weird year where Leicester just won. Very strange.
No, but the Moneyball, I think, because you're saying, just because it was about baseball, it's about baseball, but even if you're not a fan, it's still pretty, like, it's a great watch because of something else under the surface, maybe. And it reminds me of, like, I think it came out around the same time as The Big Short and I think...
Might have been a bit before it.
Yeah.
A bit before.
And you've got films like another film I was going to mention briefly, but I won't go into it too much. The Social Network was one of my favourite films based on a true event.
Great film.
But these kind of films they've got their central subject is not necessarily something that's that interesting, but they always have this idea of like people who have this secret like knowledge that's sort of at the sort of centre and at the key to unlocking some weird potential that's going to change things. And it's like that's what kind of makes it so like interesting to watch, because you've got in Social Network, you got obviously like society on the precipice of this massive change, and this one guy, Mark Zuckerberg, who's got the key to unlock it all. With The Big Short, you've got the financial crisis and these guys who have this secret knowledge, and with Moneyball, you've got these guys who have this secret knowledge, and it's all about this. Like, it's almost like it's irrelevant that it's about Facebook or baseball or the financial crisis. It's this idea that these kind of relatable people have this sort of thing that only they know.
You're describing the hero's journey. It's the Luke Skywalker. It's the guy that kind of has the secret knowledge and changes things and alters the course of like their history and the world around him and stuff. It's the traditional hero's journey, King Arthur, Robin Hood and stuff. But it's just real life.
I was gonna say it's just an underdog tale.
Everything comes back to
Star Wars. Boom, graphic. No. you don't have to make a graphic.
Why would?
Or
I'm already putting the New Tricks theme as the end credits music. I'm already putting that in.
Get copyright claims.
Oh God.
So I don't know if it's if it's like purely the hero story, because with the hero story you've got this. You've got the hero's journey, sorry, because you've got all those little touchstones you have to hit, like the call to adventure.
Oh yeah.
And then going into the fortress and fighting the adversary and
the mentor character,
the mentor character,
turning away from the call,
the low point, and then the climax, and it's like But
I don't know though. But in these dramatizations, they would have written it like that.
But that's just narrative theory in general, though. You always need that type of like Todorovian theory.
Well, you say that though. Have any of you watched Sully with Tom Hanks?
Yeah, I sat through that.
Yeah.
I see. That's the thing. I quite enjoyed this film, I found it super. That's the thing. It's all right because I found it super interesting to learn what happened. But it felt like one of those ones where they went, well, because it's based on true events, we're just going to kind of tell them. So the film just kind of goes dum-da-dum-da-dum, finished. There's no real like peak and trough and like narrative structure to it. It just kind of tells these events. There are some sort of ups and downs, and then it just sort of ends and goes, okay, see you later.
They really struggled to make that film like watchable because in the end, because I have like a kind of an interest in air crash investigation and stuff, and like Sully, I watched that and I kind of enjoyed it on that level because I knew about the incident and everything. And it was cool to find out, like, see the dramatisation of it and everything. But basically, the investigation system that is in place as a result of plane crashes. It's nothing like it is in that film, because in that film it's dramatised so much, where they're actually calling into question his behaviour and trying to paint this picture that he could have saved the aircraft and everything, and like making it out like he's somehow made a mistake and it's him against them kind of thing. In reality, it was not like that, and it would not have been like that at all, because the people on in that courtroom, whatever it was, the investigation committee, they're like pilots, they're former, like they're extremely knowledgeable about these things. It would have just been like taken as read that the guy did a really good job, and like it was just a formality. It would just been in the most mundane formality to just cross up, dot the I's, cross the T's. Oh, it was yes, he couldn't have reacted in time. We've determined this. But in the film, it was like, we think you could have saved the aircraft. Well, actually, you've got one thing wrong about that. You did it like a robot, and I'm a human. You forgot the humanity, and it's like, yeah. But anyway, it was a good. I enjoyed it.
Is that one of them where they didn't have a lot to work with? So
That's it. That's what I mean. Yeah, they struggle to make it work, because they need to go, right, we need a story, we need peaks and troughs, we need like the regular stuff that happens in films here, so let's take some dramatic license.
But my question would be, is if you've sat down and gone, oh, we don't really have enough to make a film out of this, why make the film then? Like, I don't think this, I'm not saying they shouldn't have made this film, because I enjoyed it.
It's because Sully, Captain Sully, or Sullenberger, or whatever he's called, was like basically a national hero. What he did actually was insane. The fact that he actually landed the plane was actually mental. Like, it was incredibly skillful.
No one died, did they?
No one died. No one was even really injured. It's like
they still moaned at him.
And they still moaned at him.
Grateful.
Capitalist America. They were too worried about the plane.
It was like incredible. So he was like the darling of like media and the aircraft, world and everything. And so they had to make a film, and they had to have Tom Hanks star as him. The guy's a national treasure.
I was going to say, it was one of those things where they were like, right, we have to make a film out of this. Sit down and write a script. And they wrote down the script. Someone read through it and went, this is like the most mundane, boring script ever of an amazing event, and also it's only 45 minutes long.
The thing is, the point of that story, the sort of the climax of that story that everything's leading up to, is the crash landing, and we all know that happens and everyone survives. So we have to invent some other kind of drama, but the whole reason, the whole thing with Sully is that he landed the plane. There's not really much. The guy's quite a sensible, quite a sort of like normal guy. He's done 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours in an aircraft without any other incidents. He's very straight-laced, normal all American guys, but we still have to make some sort of film here. So yeah.
It's the same thing that happened with Titanic. Like, the entire point of Titanic is to get to the iceberg and the ship sinking. Yeah. But that's not like they obviously tried to go down that route, and we're like, well, that's not interesting enough on its own, and if we do it like based on the captain and the crew, it just looks like a documentary, and we're just telling the events, and it's not very interesting to watch.
But with them,
so they invented this whole like story about this rich woman falls in love with this poor guy, that like just built this whole narrative around this tragic event to make it a bit more interesting and to invest you a bit more in the actual event.
That was the masterstroke though with that film, because it's like, who doesn't, generally speaking, like a good love story? And you get a love story, you tack it onto a massive a disaster. And then there we go.
Yeah, it was doomed love, like Romeo and Juliet. Also starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Also based on true events.
Yes, well, now I'm
so sure about that.
Audio listeners won't have seen the look on Ben's face, and that led me on to confusion.
Well, now I'm going to talk about my favourite film based on true events, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters on the
We on the way to meet Christian today, me and Danny were talking, saying there's no way James and Christian can get Scooby-Doo into this podcast. Like, there's no way.
There's always a way.
Like, we were saying,
finds a way.
Like, there's no way James can bring up a Marvel movie. They're not based on real events. Like, there's no way you can do it. So.
Boom! I did it as a joke.
Christian came in clutch.
I forgot to mention it as well. I quickly spoke to my dad today. He said he was listening to the previous podcast. He also liked Now You See Me.
Yeah, it's a good film.
So
it's a really fun film.
So I was like, oh no.
I think you guys are the first people I've met who didn't like that film.
I'll be honest.
It was a generally liked film.
I think I watched it and thought it was fine, and then I've forgotten.
I am not under the impression that either film, especially the second one, is actually like a good film. However, they are so ridiculous that I couldn't help but enjoy them. The final one I wanted to mention, and it's the one that I really wanted to mention, I just couldn't find a good enough background that wasn't just like that wasn't just my head covering the whole photo. But I really wanted to mention City of God.
You're a big...
Ooh, a highbrow pick.
Big,
I am.
Fan of this one, aren't you?
I'm a very big fan of this film. I remember sitting down to watch it for a media studies class and coming out and being like, that was absolutely fantastic. It's a great film set in the sort of slums of Brazil, based around a character whose nickname is Rocket.
Raccoon. Told you I'd get Marvel in. There it is.
Boom. There we go.
Right.
Marvel and Scooby-Doo.
I'll see you later, boys.
Yeah, he's basically sort of lived in the slums his entire life and wants to get out and become a photographer. He's like big into photography, and he wants to take the picture that's going to get him out of the slums. And in doing this, he ends up in this sort of rivalry between two huge gangs in the slums, and the entire film is told in this sort of non-linear back and forth pattern set across the 60s, 70s and 80s about who each of these characters are and how they came to be sort of involved in this sort of big culmination event. So it's one of those films where it sort of starts at the end and then goes back and keeps moving its way forward, and then it starts with sort of Rocket's story, and he'll get a bit further into his story, and then you'll meet a character, and it'll be like, but I need to explain how I met this person, and then it will go back through their story, and it all just culminates. Honestly, I can't gush enough over this film, and it is a film that I want to sit down and educate you guys on at some point.
I was going to make the same joke.
Because
you're going to have to educate us.
Honestly, it's definitely a film that's worth watching, because it's just so well shot, so well edited, and it's such an interesting story.
I'm very interested in it.
Yeah. Is it timeless though?
Based on like sort of actual gang wars that went on throughout the 70s and 80s in Brazil's City of God.
I've not finished the film, but I think we'd be remiss not to mention The Wolf of Wall Street. Like, that was a really good film.
That was on my list.
Yeah. Any other quick fire ones people want to whack out there?
Talking of Scorsese, Goodfellas as well.
Is that based on real events?
It certainly is, it certainly is. Henry
Hill.
Hill, that's right, yeah, is a...
I prefer his brother Harry.
Person.
Okay.
Like chalk and cheese, then, too. But yeah, good guys. Any others, guys?
I am a huge fan, and I'd love to watch it one day with you guys. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. That's a really good film. Amazingly well shot. A great score by Nick Cave and Warren Ellis, and it's got...
Really thought you were going to say Nick Cage. Really thought that's where this was going.
Yeah.
The man's talent.
Also got Brad Pitt in it. Big fan of Brad. I'm also a huge fan of 127 Hours as well.
Oh yeah, good shout.
Because I'd heard about the story growing up in Cumbria and the Shire and stuff. We go up mountains, My dad tell me about this guy that got stuck in a rock in a mountain and stuff. And
Stuck in a rock.
Something tells me that 127 hours has never happened in Cumbria.
A lot has happened in Cumbria.
What happens in Cumbria stays.
You wouldn't believe, mate. Talking of one that kind of within the area that we live, a really good one is called 24-Hour Party People, about the rise of the Manchester kind of rave scene in the late 80s, 90s, and the hacienda, and it follows Steve Coogan plays the producer. I can't remember his real name. I think it's Brian something, and his rise from producing acts like Happy Mondays and Joy Division / New Order and stuff. And
Anthony Wilson.
That might be his name. Yeah, Tony Wilson, not Brian.
Wilson.
Brian Wilson's the singer of the Beach Boys. Not close at all. And it's a who's who of actors as well. People that weren't famous at the time. Andy Serkis is in it. John Sim. Other people are in it. Steve Coogan. It's crazy.
That's another one of those films where I didn't think I'd be actually super interested in the topic, and then I sat down and watched it and was like, this is actually a really good film.
The guy that plays Shaun Ryder nails it.
Absolutely.
And now, of course, the hacienda is just a block of flats.
Oh yes, the hacienda flats.
All
really
those memories, like tears in rain.
Oh
yeah.
One of my favourite. You know, you watch a film, it says based on real events, blah de blah. One of my favourite ones, I got told that in Fargo, when that comes up, that's just bullshit. It's fake. The Coens just thought it would kind of be funny and more intriguing to audiences. Oh, it's real. It's not. They just made it up.
Yeah. I've got a couple I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about The Imitation Game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a shout.
That's such a good film. Congleton Sandbach in the main role.
That's outrageous. that's barely even anything. That's not even English.
Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch as Alan Turing, Keira Knightley. It's such a good film. I also wanted to mention The Disaster Artist, because how could I not?
I'm amazed James didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
I sat there going, when's James going to say it? And I'm amazed you didn't bring it up, James.
I was too busy thinking of Sully.
And the sort of film studies in me would be remiss if I didn't say Battleship Potemkin.
Oh, Jesus
for
Christ.
God's sake.
What? Just bring up Eisenstein. Get that in there. It's a silent film from 1925, done by Sergei Eisenstein, and it's based on the mutiny of the Battleship Potemkin and then the subsequent riot that caused and massacre.
And the pram goes downstairs, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. It's a very famous shot that has been replicated in many parodies. Is it the first Naked Gun, or am I...
It's in Untouchables as well, isn't it? Like, it's in that, and then it's in Naked Gun. I think it's the first Naked Gun.
I think it's the first Naked Gun. That they make reference to that stair sequence. That's
Untouchables,
incredibly famous.
Real events. Bloody hell.
Should we just list all the films?
Yeah,
like...
I didn't mean to say it. I didn't mean it. Like, the cool thing is about films based on, because like you get like you're talking about like baseball and like Sully and stuff. There are also these little worlds that we don't know about when we get to like discover about, and that's kind of also what makes them interesting. Like, I don't know anything about baseball, but now I'm going to find out a bit. I don't know anything about landing a plane. Let's find out. Or being trapped in a rock. Let's see what it's about. It's really cool.
I reckon
cool little niches.
I reckon I could land a plane. Legitimately. I reckon I could land a plane. Anyway, so that brings an end to our little chat about our favourite films based on true events. That was a pretty good chat.
It was.
Now, for the next section, we've listened to you. We've listened to you. We've heard you. And we've decided to bring back what we've been watching. But under a new guise, which makes a bit more sense. Instead of what we've been watching, we're going to call it, what do we recommend?
Shall I quickly go? Mine's on theme.
Oh.
Sort of. Mine is a TV show sort of based off real events.
Oh.
And
I think I know what this is.
I hinted at it earlier. I will recommend the show on Channel 4, sadly. It's a Sin.
Why sadly?
Because Channel 4's the worst, especially All 4.
All 4.
I'm going to recommend you what you just. It's on All 4, but please get through it because it's the worst service.
Yeah, all 4. I mean, it's free, but you can tell
it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Ironically, yeah, you do pay for it. Yeah, it's about It's a Sin, 5-part drama written and created by, I think, Russell T Davies from Doctor Who, about the AIDS crisis in the 80s, and we kind of follow 5 lead characters kind of making their way through life, but also trying to make their way through the AIDS crisis and the struggle of also like being gay in that era and things like that. It's I was, before watching it, I was told it was like a hard watch, but I found it like incredibly compelling and watchable in a weird sense. I think Dan was with me. I binged it in a weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would. I kind of thought I'd maybe watch one, take a day off, or watch one a day, get in the mood for it. But I found it like after every episode ended, I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the next one now.
Yeah.
Really interesting, really engaging. I didn't really know a lot about the subject, or at the time, and I found it very interesting. And it's got some kind of surprise known actors in like supporting roles.
Yeah.
All the leads are kind of unknown. The main lead guy's a pop singer.
What band's in?
I was told it's called Years and Years.
Oh yeah.
Years and Years.
Right. Okay.
You wouldn't know. It's not like he's great. He's very good in it. It's very interesting. Good show, worth the watch.
Yeah. Well, I was watching it kind of initially. So I think you put on episode 1 where I was kind of in the background, and it caught my attention and started distracting me a little bit, and then it gradually just drew me in. And so by sort of like episode 3, I was no longer in the background. I was fully like watching the show. and yeah, but they weren't kidding about it being a kind of a grim watch, because it really does sort of go into aspects of like the whole AIDS crisis that we've not really, from what I can think of, we've not really sort of seen before. We go into like the social stigma of it all, but we also go into like other aspects of the actual disease itself and the symptoms and effects and stuff, and it's a bit of a difficult watch. And it's actually really like, there were parts of it that are quite sad, really, as you'd expect, but yeah, well made. Perhaps it deserved more episodes though. I think, Ben, you mentioned that it was initially going to be, what did he want, like 8 episodes, or
he had 10 episodes? Yeah, he wanted 8, and then Channel 4 said we'll give you 4, and then he bargained and got 5, because his plan was to then like jump to modern day and see where we're at now with the
that'd be cool.
AIDS crisis.
That would have been sort of an interesting way to close that off.
Yeah.
But, they could do a second season, I suppose, because it's about the subject matter. So I don't know.
I don't know if you could.
It might be a case of if it, like, I mean, I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and I've heard you recommend it sort of off the podcast before, and I think it seems to have gotten a fairly decent sort of amount of people watch it. So hopefully he can maybe not push for a second season, but at least push to get those other 3 episodes made as like a sort of
like a Christmas special.
No, I was gonna say it's like an almost like epilogue to the season, sort of a.
I don't know, because the way that the
I don't want to spoil.
No, we don't want to spoil it, but yeah, no, let's not spoil it. But I'm not sure. Maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. But
I was thinking, surely he just rewrote it so that the 8-episode arc was now 5 episodes.
Well, I don't want to say too much, but it ends. You're satisfied at the end of the show.
Okay.
But yeah, the great thing is about the show, it's my mum told me, people said on the radio, it's that they are now aware of the topic more and are like getting themselves checked out and stuff, and it's now because we're in a more socially acceptable time to talk about these
issues,
and it's now more the most baffling stuff in that show is it's less so the illness, it's the other people that are like the stigma and like some people's parents. Like there's a scene where super quick, there's a scene where a character tries to take out a mortgage on a house. And if he says he's gay, they won't give him the mortgage. Like it's relevant. It's so mental. It's like the what people have to go through daily. It's just we don't know anything. The way our lives we're so like sheltered. Yeah.
There was so much like misinformation about like AIDS and HIV then in the 80s, like where people just believed things about it that just weren't true, and then there's this massive stigma that came about as a result of it. Because it was only affecting gay people for the most part as well, so there's this weird kind of like religious aspect to it all, like, oh, it's sent from God. And it's like, it was just a really sort of dark time, because no one really knew what it was at first. It's like, it was not a good situation.
It's really cool, because the show plays into that, like, there's bits where it's like, a virus that only kills gay people. That's lies from the government, the media telling us to stop having sex. It's really that element is an interesting part of the show as well. It's really interesting.
Oh, it's not a crazy idea, people thinking that the government created a virus to control people. Now that is far-fetched.
What do you mean, James? I
can't imagine. I'm just rambling. I've got no meaning behind this. I'm just just saying funny words, aren't I?
In our little four-framed window, it's safe in here. There's nothing going on outside the frames. It's all.
Oh God! But it also surprised me, Ben. It came out that you hadn't watched Philadelphia, which is a classic film based on the same thing. That was actually made in like 1992 or 3, I think, and that was like in the midst of it all as well. And that actually kind of like it really just obviously set in America, Philadelphia.
You don't say.
Wow, really?
But you've got like 2 great actors there. Well, say what you will about Tom Hanks. He performed well in Philadelphia. He is a good actor, and Denzel Washington, obviously. But like, it sort of approaches it in a slightly different way, but it still focuses on the stigma and everything, which was still very much a real thing. Not that it's not gone now. There's still stigma about it and everything. There's stigma about all sorts of stuff. But this type of show, that type of film, Philadelphia, and then this type of show, it just can only kind of educate people, can't it? So yeah, good stuff.
I'll be honest, once we said we were going to do this, I was like, I've been busy with editing and all this and that. I haven't really been watching anything. Completely forgot. Yeah, I have. I've started a show that Christian recommended to me for a while ago, and it's then been on my list, and then it's because my housemate has recently binged the whole show and has like said, come on, I'll sit down and watch this with you. I'm getting so into Bojack Horseman at the moment. Like, I watched the pilot when it first came out, and I was like, I'm not a huge fan of this. It's not very funny and all this. But Christian ages ago said, no, it gets so good. And my housemate was like, it starts off trying to be a bit of a comedy, and then just suddenly seems to go, no, we're just going to be like a show. And I haven't even finished season 1 yet, but I'm so into it. I'm really enjoying it. It's actually, like, I think it's just not a great pilot, but once it gets started and finds its feet, it's got some really nice sort of like dry humour, like the sort of social commentary on the celebrity culture that we have. It's just a really nice show, 20-minute chunks, nothing too deep yet, and it's fun.
The way you said that sentence was like you were gonna keep talking. It was fun.
Oh, and it has got animal puns galore.
Oh, that's why
I'm so here for it. There's one bit where he has an altercation with a seal in a supermarket, and it then reveals that he's part of the military and he's a Navy SEAL. I was like, oh, chef's kiss, brilliant. There's like a little sort of side gag about these two dogs who are like the typical mums who are like, oh, I know I shouldn't eat chocolate because it can literally kill me, but it tastes so good. Like, there's just loads of little plays on words, and I'm so here for it.
Can I point out that I have never seen Bojack Horseman? So it wasn't me that recommended it to you.
Neither have I.
Oh, I could have sworn it was you recommended it to me at work.
No.
Someone at work must be raving about this show then?
I was going to say it'll be
if
someone.
It's you, let us know in the comments.
Yes,
If
it's you.
I've heard people talk about the show, and I've heard that it's good, and it's been on my watch list for a while, but I haven't actually gotten around to it yet.
I'd really recommend it. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if I'm enjoying it at the moment because I'm watching it with someone who's already seen it, and I'm enjoying that shared experience with them. But it's good, man. I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait till it gets like to the level that everyone else raves about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of like sort of like adult animation. Anyway, I love stuff like Archer, Bob's Burgers, that sort of stuff already, and BoJack Horseman seems to have that same sort of dry sense of humor where they use sort of what can be seen as like quite a childish medium to tell to sort of portray issues that might normally animation gets away with a lot more than regular TV. So I think that's why I like sort of that side of things, because it's more free and they can delve into topics that might get regular TV shows into trouble with networks.
Yeah, if you enjoyed Archer, you'll enjoy BoJack Horseman. I think Archer and BoJack are very similar characters, and the humour is very similar in these shows.
Nice.
Then there's a couple of films I've watched recently that I can quickly just recommend. The first one is because the second one came out, of course, we did the unforgivable Norbit video to allude to this, but because the second Coming to America came out, I went back and watched the first because I'd never seen it, and I really enjoyed it. It's like a super sort of funny film. It wasn't what I was expecting, because I always thought Coming to America was like a sort of Borat style, it has a story but then it's real people.
Yeah.
Whereas it's more sort of it's a regular sort of
comedy film.
It's a plot.
It's a regular plot-based comedy film, but also includes some like what I would describe as skits and sketches throughout. There's like
the barbershop.
The barbershop. That like those bits don't really involve that. Like they involve that they don't involve the main characters for like bits and pieces of it. There's parts where they just cut to the barbershop and it's just them having a conversation and then it cuts back to the normal story. I don't know. It wasn't the film I was expecting, but it's really good. I'd highly recommend it.
Very heartwarming story as well.
Yeah, it's a great heartwarming like story about.
Cute. What do you think of Coming into America too?
Well, I thought as a tease, because Christian's talked about the first one, I will talk about the second one next week. Stay tuned.
The other film that I watched recently, purely based on an impulse, was scrolling through, saw it and was like, you know what? I like Keanu Reeves. I'm going to watch The Devil's Advocate. I've never seen it.
Neither have I.
I don't know if any...
Does he play the Devil's Advocate?
He does.
Is it Al Pacino? Have I lost my mind?
It is. It is Al Pacino. It's basically this sort of weird part drama, part fantasy film.
The film screams to me of a idea that two guys in a boardroom were sat around and somebody said the phrase, play devil's advocate, and somebody went, what if we made a movie where the guy was actually the devil's advocate? And the guy went, you've got to picture this. You've got to picture this, son.
It's a very interesting film. There's like a lot going on. You say a film, it's like, it's a guy who's hired by the devil to be a lawyer. It doesn't sound very interesting. It's a way more interesting film. And
you'd both be into it.
Yeah, it's so well put together.
Yeah, for sure.
So, let us know in the comments below whether you'd like to see some sort of like roundups at the end of us watching seasons of shows that we've not seen or are rewatching, and whether you'd want to see like live tweets of some shows or films. Like, would that be something that people would be interested in?
Yeah.
The fans that we currently have at the moment.
Yeah, please do.
I don't care what the fans want. I do what I want.
Okay.
All right.
Wow, you're really rock and roll, aren't you, Dan?
Come on, take us home, Dan.
And you're definitely Ringo.
Oh my god.
What? Sorry, I don't know where that came from. It just slipped out.
Can't believe it.
That's horrible.
It's alright.
I'm joking.
So I think that's the end of the podcast, isn't it, guys? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a nice
I think we
wrap up.
We have covered several topics, a wide range of,
Plenty of clip outs.
of things. Plenty of clip outs, which is what people
Yeah.
are going to be watching. So yeah, thank you guys, and for you guys watching or listening, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcasts, which are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And that's about it, innit? So see you next time for episode 18.
It's alright, it's okay. Doesn't really matter if you're old